What's good everybody, this is CP and welcome back to my NBA Fantasy series. If this is your first time here, be sure to check out my entire fantasy playlist for other videos to help you win this season. Today let's talk about potential sleepers and breakout players at the shooting guard position. Drafting these players might give you the extra edge you need to win it all in your 2019-2020 NBA Fantasy Leagues. So let's not waste any more time and 走起吧. Kevin Huerter of the Atlanta Hawks is a young guard with a good chance to significantly improve this year. As a rookie, he averaged 9.7 points, 3.3 boards, 2.9 assists, and 1.8 threes per game. Those stats aren't outstanding, but he continued to improve as the season went on. At 21 years old, he is already the Hawks' starting shooting guard. With secured playing time, he should see close to 30 minutes a night this season. Huerter is a high-volume shooter from beyond the arc who averaged 4.7 three-point attempts per game last year. He also managed to make 136 threes on 353 attempts and was ranked 56th in the NBA in total threes made last year. Standing at 6'7", Huerter has good size for a shooting guard and has upside to increase his points, threes, rebounds, assists, and steals as well. Aside from Trae Young and John Collins, I could see the Hawks using Huerter as a 2B or third option on most nights. With more experience and a better team around him, I think Huerter should be able to improve his three-point conversion rate to about 40% this year and finish the season as a top 40 fantasy player in three-pointers made. One knock on Huerter's game is his inability to make baskets inside the arc. His two-point field goal percentage was only 45.7% last year, which was well below the NBA average. As a result, this affected his overall fantasy value as well. If he is able to improve his efficiency, I wouldn't be surprised to see him average 14 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1 steal per game, along with 2 three-pointers. This should give Huerter a chance to finish as a top 100 fantasy player in 2020. Gary Harris of the Denver Nuggets may be one of the most forgotten players in fantasy basketball this year. He was a player that was plagued by injuries last season. His fantasy stats took a huge hit as we saw his averages drop in pretty much every major category. For example, his steal average dropped from 1.8 to 1.0, and his scoring dropped from 17.5 to 12.9. As a result, in many standard leagues, I feel like you can get Harris at a nice discount this year. Many pre-draft rankings have him slipping out of the first 6 rounds, but I can definitely see him outplaying his draft position. Hopefully the people who run Yahoo and ESPN rankings don't watch this video, so you can continue to cash in on Harris in most of your drafts. Despite those rankings, I think Gary Harris can be one of the biggest comeback players in the NBA this year, making him a potential sleeper to go after in many leagues. Based on Harris's scoring history, age, and career averages, I wouldn't be surprised to see him return to form and average closer to 18 points, 1.8 steals, 3 rebounds, and around 2 threes per game. This makes Harris a very decent shooting guard to target in the mid-rounds, as he has a chance to finish as a top 75 fantasy player by the end of the season. I'm not a huge fan of taking rookies in NBA fantasy drafts, but if I had to take 3 this year, I would probably go after Zion Williamson in New Orleans, Ja Morant in Memphis, and RJ Barrett of the New York Knicks. I like Barrett's fantasy upside for 2 reasons. For one, the Knicks don't have a lot of elite offensive weapons this year, making Barrett a potential high-usage player right away. On the other hand, it doesn't look like there is anyone on the current roster that has the potential to outplay Barrett and overtake his starting spot, so the minutes will likely be there all year long. Much like Kevin Knox last year, I expect David Fizdale to give Barrett close to 28 minutes a night to start the season, and with every opportunity to succeed. Whether that translates to useful fantasy numbers is up to Barrett. Some people might be concerned with his summer league inefficiencies, but like most NBA rookies, we should expect some tough nights from Barrett, especially early on in the season. Owners should be very careful about dropping him since many highly rated rookies have a tendency to blow up in the second half of the season. A good example would be someone like Trae Young, who finished off the year very strong last year and gradually worked his way into the top 30. Right now, it's hard to pinpoint an exact stat line Barrett could put up next year, but conservatively speaking, I could see him put up a 15, 5, and 3 stat line. If RJ Barrett figures things out fast, he might be able to average closer to 18.6 boards and 4.5 assists by the end of the season. In long-term keeper and dynasty leagues, Barrett is a potential franchise guard to build around. It might take him a few years to reach his prime, but a top 75 finish as a rookie is a reachable goal for him. Marcus Smart of the Boston Celtics might be another deep sleeper guard to target this season. He quietly finished as a top 100 fantasy player last year, averaging 8.9 points along with 4 assists, 2.9 boards, 1.8 steals, and 1.6 threes. Overall, Smart is a Swiss Army knife type of fantasy player who can give you a little bit of everything in 5 categories. With Kyrie Irving and Terry Rozier gone, the minutes should open up for Smart this year. He has the opportunity to play a bigger role for the Celtics and be one of the main guards in the rotation. If you plan to draft Smart, don't expect him to give you huge scoring numbers. His most valuable fantasy asset is his ability to provide elite steal numbers along with decent value in multiple categories, and the ability to be slotted in as either a shooting guard or a point guard. I feel like Smart may be underdrafted in a lot of leagues this year, but realistically speaking, he is one Kemba Walker or Jaylen Brown injury away from putting up very big numbers. Nonetheless, Smart is a pretty safe pick to provide top 100 value for his owners next season. Caris LeVert of the Brooklyn Nets is another player who could potentially break out this year. He had a semi-breakout season last year until he suffered a major leg injury that put him out of action for 2 months. LeVert was on a run where he was averaging close to 19 points along with 4 assists and 1 steal before the injury. After he came back, he still put up pretty decent numbers. He ended up finishing the season averaging 13.7 points, 3.9 assists, 3.8 boards, 1.1 steal, and 1.2 trays per game. With the leg injury behind him, I can see LeVert hit new career highs across the board once again this year. Even though Kyrie Irving is now in Brooklyn, we can't forget that Kevin Durant likely won't play next year. This gives LeVert a great opportunity to be the team's second or third option on most nights. LeVert should be able to secure an important role in the rotation, and playing with Kyrie could make him the benefactor of many open shots. His 3-point shooting isn't good, but if he is able to step things up, it wouldn't be a stretch to see LeVert average around 17 to 18 points a game this season. LeVert is one of those fantasy players that has dual position eligibility at shooting guard and at small forward. This makes him a very versatile player to draft and plug into your lineup. Realistically, LeVert should be able to finish the season as a top 100 fantasy player and possibly breach the top 80 when it's all said and done. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder is my pick to be one of the biggest breakout guards in fantasy basketball this year. As a rookie, he played in a crowded backcourt in LA, but still managed to put up a decent 10, 2, and 3 stat line, averaging around 26 minutes a night. Statistically, Gilgeous-Alexander is not a great shooter, but he is able to provide above average value in steals and blocks for a guard. His off-season move to OKC should help his fantasy game explode this season. It looks like he will be the starting shooting guard to start, but he could see a bigger role if Chris Paul gets traded or suffers an injury, which is likely to happen. Given every opportunity to produce in Oklahoma this year, I like SGA's chances of being a 14-5 guy along with 1.5 steals and close to 1.3 per game. Shai is one of those players that could be the Thunder's franchise player in the near future. So if you are looking for a keeper to build around, Gilgeous-Alexander could potentially be a solid choice at the guard position. At just 21 years old with plenty of upside, I can see Gilgeous-Alexander be one of the most improved players in the NBA this year.
What's good, everybody? This is CP and I have some very exciting news to announce today. So basically, for this fantasy season, I've decided to step things up a bit and will be hosting my very own competitive 12-team head-to-head money league, where I'll be competing with 11 of my subscribers for cash prizes. I plan to reward the top 3 finishers with cash prizes. On top of that, the first place winner will be receiving a very special gift delivered from me. To find out how you can qualify for this league and win some money, check out the link below. Don't wait, because once the spots fill up, I'll be locking up the league until the season starts. I hope to see some of you there, and I can't wait for the season to start. 走起吧!
If you want to watch more fantasy basketball related videos like this one, make sure you go through my fantasy playlist with the links right here. In my other videos, I talk about potential sleepers and breakout players you might want to target in other positions. On top of that, I also share potential game-changing fantasy tips that can help you win it all this year. Let's go, baby!